Hi guys and welcome to DRUM.DOG. Today I'm going to be taking you all through a really short crash course on hi-hat barks. Now what is a hi-hat bark? A hi-hat bark is just like a hi-hat choke, but it's a lot shorter. Now we can't just define the difference between the two of those things by how long or short they are, because then we'd have to have an exact cut-off point and crack out our stopwatches and it will get a bit crazy. But we can define this exact difference by the change in technique on how we close the hats. Now for a hi-hat choke, we're going to be playing one hit to open the cymbals and then another hit to close them at the same time as our foot closes them. Whereas with a hi-hat bark, to get that much shorter tone, we're having one hit to open the cymbals, but then straight away afterwards, we're closing them with our foot. No need for a second hit with the stick when we're closing the hats this time. Now because of their short and sharp nature, hat barks are perfect for accenting little staccato rhythms within our beats so we can pick out parts of the music that we need to. But with that in mind, where we're going to use barks most often is when they're underpinned by a bass drum as well. Now this presents its own coordination challenges because there's actually quite a lot to process there to make that bark happen with a bass drum. We're going to be hitting the hi-hat, opening the hi-hat and playing the bass drum all at the same time, then followed by stepping down with that left foot as quickly as we can. That takes a bit of practice to get sounding right and nice and accurate every time, so let's take a second just to get that happening. Once we've got that coordination happening and it's starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, let's take it into a dead simple beat where we're going to chuck a bark on beat 1, again along with that bass drum. Now it's in a musical application like that the bark really starts to come in its own and you can start to hear how it's super useful. With that in mind, let's say we're playing a piece of music that has a real short and sharp hit on 4 and, but we also want to lay down 1 to feel that main pulse again. So we're going to have a bass drum on 4 and as well as 1, but we're going to underpin that 4 and with a bark as well, just to make it stand out. Let's give it a shot. So there's one musical possibility with that bark, but there are loads more out there. So let's say, what if we're playing a piece that has 2 of those staccato hits in a row? We're going to need to develop that coordination to play 2 barks quickly after one another. So let's try a very similar beat again, this time with a bark on 4 and as well as beat 1. Now you really want to keep an eye on that one to make sure that left foot's closing that hat fully in between both barks to make sure that you get those two separated sounds. You don't get that slight sizzle that's carrying on between both of them. Now for a final really cool groove application of this bark, you'll find it a lot in funk music on a 16th note offbeat to pull out those 16th note pushes. But in order to catch that offbeat, we're going to have to play the hat on a 16th offbeat. Now we've got two options to be able to catch that note. One of them is to bring that left hand up to be able to catch the bark. And the other option is to play 2/16 in the right hand to catch that bark and then leave a short gap before joining in on the next eighth again. Now while all those groove applications are super cool, that's not the limit of the uses of that hi-hat bark. Barks can also be incredibly useful used in fills. Quite often when we're playing fills, there's certain accents and little changes in the music that we're trying to pull out rhythmically, and while our default is to play those on the cymbals, if some of those accents are shorter sounds instead of longer sounds, that can sound super effective and musical if put onto a hi-hat bark. First things first, let's try just barking on some 8th note downbeats through some fills so we're always catching that in our leading hand. But just as we did with the grooves, they also sound awesome on those 16th note offbeats where we're going to be catching them in our weaker hand. Hi-hat barks are super versatile little creatures and they're well worth practicing to be able to add them to your arsenal and to increase your vocabulary on your fills and grooves, just being able to chuck in those little short musical accents. I hope you guys really enjoyed this lesson. As always, if you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for the next one.